ordinary meeting on the 25th of June, 2024. We gather today to duly and faithfully carry out our duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all of our community and fellow citizens. Coorong District Council members acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Ngarrindjeri people whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to country and pay our respects to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nation people. And next week is NAIDOC week, if I remember correctly. Thank you. First item is apologies. Councillor Peach is an apology. The rest of all the other councillors are in the room. Acknowledgements, I have been notified of none. Stage number 3, declarations of interest. In a discussion around discretionary rebates to community groups, and I'll invite other councillors in a second. I'm a member of the Kiminooka Amalgamated Pastime Club Committee, so it's part of our discretionary rate discussion, so I declare there's a general conflict, and I think I'll still stay in the room. I think. Anyone else wish to in that grouping of conflicts of interest in that rate rebate area or any other? No. That's good. Okay, number 4 is confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting, including the confidential minutes held on the 21st of May. That's 24. We've got 2 motions, Ashley. Would we like here? Or, yes, please. Of that first one, please, Councillor Qualman, you're moving. Thank you. For a seconder. Councillor O'Hara is the winner. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. And of the special meeting held on the 4th of June, please someone move that way. Councillor Bland, and the seconder is Councillor Rountree. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously again. Item 5 is adjourned items of business number 1. For those watching the live stream, please be advised the meeting is probably about to move into confidence and the video and audio will be paused. The live stream will be resumed at the end of this item.
I'll second.
So Councillor Bland got out ahead of you again. So that's a formal motion, councillors. So there's no debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Reports by members. Is that what we're up to? 6-1. My report. Councillors, you got any questions before I want to find it?
Willis, we've had some
Yes,
discussions.
we met with
there.
2 separate government instrumentality people with perhaps some different perspectives. We encouraged the second one to approach local government research, local government around some funding around dealing with the overabundance in a humane way. There's probably some methods they can do with it. We're not the only people in Australia with Corellas, but that probably helps our case in getting some research done. If we were the only ones, it might be quite different. So, yeah.
Mr. Beck, right?
Yep.
Covering there.
Mm-hmm.
At the Limestone Coast LGA meeting, they were always addressed by someone from PIRSA, and PIRSA have come up or have produced a scheme. I think it's got to go to the Minister with poisoning. They will be using poisoning at this stage, but it's up to the Minister to approve it. But it's not. Actually, I was surprised that the southeast is just absolutely overrun with them now too. It's just incredible. And they don't eat the pine trees, though. They eat the gums.
As we know in this town. So yes, there's a fair bit of work to be done in terms of regulatory authorities within what PIRSA want to do, but I think it's underway.
Yeah, I think they're talking about having a trial. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So there is some hope in terms of dealing with Corella control in our sort of environment. Just looking through, it was a busy month.
I have a question there.
Yeah.
May 23, you had afternoon tea with Her Excellency the Governor at Government House. What did you learn from that?
That the reputation of Government House sausage rolls is unsurpassed. Anyone that's been to any function at Government House would know they do have the best little sausage rolls.
Haven't tried Joel's.
Well,
Pay for the sausage rolls.
so for everyone's benefit, all mayors and their partners were invited to stay at Government House on the Thursday night. We were invited to afternoon tea prior to that and to have breakfast with the Governor and her husband next morning.
Oh, how lovely.
And I and 3 other mayors took up that opportunity. So
Good on
it's
you.
not the first time the Governor's done it. It's one of her plans is to do this sort of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, so someone said I was staying at the Governor's pleasure and I thought I'd be out Grand
You'll be in
Junction
jail.
Road, but it was a bit better.
I think she made it through, Mayor. She did make it clear last time she was here that she wanted to have better contact with the regions and get to know us all better. So that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, that was lovely. It was, I didn't get to stay where the King had stayed though in that room. Councillor Bland though.
Mr. Mayor, there's 2 meetings on the 17th, one in relation to the Regional Development Australia Murraylands Riverland Shared Executive Refunding Agreements. And the other one is around the Murray-Darling Basis and Murray-Darling Association
that
Region
one
6
slipped in.
meeting. So both of
I
those.
sat in for a while on Region 6. That's why. So I probably can't really spend too much time on that one. It was just I suppose the 8 councils that are in the Murraylands Riverlands RDA want to have more engagement. And I suppose it was part of that process with the chair and the CEO of RDA. And then we did a discussion, but it was cut short by another urgent meeting from memory. Yeah, something happened. We had to cut it short. I can't recall. It wasn't Corella's. Sorry, I can't actually tell you off the top of my head.
I'll let you think about it.
We'll have to follow up somehow. Lovely turnout at the National Volunteer Week luncheon out at the Bend. There was nothing particular come out of the half-yearly ordinary general meeting of the LGA, I'd have to say. Except one thing. Councillor O'Hara will better go back to work because the amount of people that will retire in the next 10 years in Australia is quite staggering. It was a demographer gave a presentation 25 to 30% of the workforce will retire.
Mm.
But the biggest category of retirees will be truck drivers, Mick, so you'll be back in the saddle. That's what it said there. It was nearly 40% will retire in the next 10 years. It was quite a staggering figure. It was a very interesting
Surprised that
presentation.
truck
We'd probably love to get it. We should better get it at some stage, and council should better watch that. It was worth having. Councillor Foreman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. May the 20th Mayor and CEO Roundtable discussion, Murray Bridge,
Oh, yes.
please.
So for some time, the 8 Murraylands councils in our Murraylands Riverland have been, we're always been aware that the 3 Riverland councils do have their own little arrangement meeting. That's just fine. So I thought we've been working towards it for a while. I'm getting together around what the 5 other councils in the region, based, I suppose, around Murray Bridge at the end of the day, can do to get on better, be more efficient. And you would be aware, as you know, that we've started the process around what might be available in the planning area in particular, and our council has given our position, I think. But any other sort of processes like that. So that was a start hosted by Murray Bridge at the Bridgeport, it was, yes. So it's just a general kick-off around what more cooperation we can have, be more efficient.
Okay. I can have one more.
Yep, you never knew like.
May the 24th meet up with the South Australian Long Ride National Fundraiser Prostate Cancer Motorcycle Representative at Taliban.
Yeah, they were going on a very long ride. They're going to end up at Cairns. I wish I could go with them. But they just ended up only one bloke, which I had dinner with at the Taliban Hotel. Very interesting how they're raising money for cancer.
That's good.
That was their colours blue hair, blue everything. So from memory.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Councillor Maven, you want to add anything to your report?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, just one little correction. On the 29th of May, I didn't actually attend the workshop through work commitments to the Greenhill Energy. I didn't attend that workshop, but I did go to the information centre session, and it was really interesting. And if that gets up, it'll be very good, I think. Yeah.
Swallowed the Scotch finger at the wrong time. Nick Mumford was on the country out today, giving a whole description about the project. He spoke quite clearly. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else got any questions? Okay. Item 7, petitions, we have nil. Item 8, deputations, I have nil. Number 9, public question time, I have nil. Number 10, decision reports. 10.1, where is it going? 10.1. So councillors, I suppose sometimes as is custom, I say a few words. We've got to the point of the adoption of the annual business plan for 24-25. I think this year we've worked very well together along with the staff that have been driving this process perhaps this year, along with the 10-year long-term financial plan and refreshed community vision plan. We had the 3 public meetings, very useful. It was very interesting to see people focused on what they thought we required in our community and the affordability perhaps in the current environment. We all have been, but we've become more acutely aware of the very unusual circumstances faced by most councils in the last some years. Supply chain constraints, the rising costs in particularly materials, electricity, insurance and fuel, which for a rural council represents, the bulk of our expenditure. In addition, the increases in depreciation costs have resulted in a combination of asset revaluations and inflationary influences, which we've become aware of in this last 12 months. So this results in our draft budget based on an 8.52% rate increase, $6.5 million capital expenditure and a projected deficit of $873,000. Looked at in the terms of the long-term financial plan, we will see consecutive budgets with rate increases and deficits reducing and asset renewal rates increasing. The feedback from consultation was largely positive and supportive of Council's responsible approach to financial management. We also heard very clearly about some concerns about asset maintenance and roads. That is ongoing, sure. In addition, there was a reaction to a proposed increase in the electricity at Canalpin Caravan Park. So it was made quite clear to us, and then written submissions afterwards. This year, I also note that Council received a lot of positive feedback around services and maintenance activities. We can see the work, particularly say Tammy can do, is doing with our sporting clubs and community groups, and it's highly appreciated. Our community facility teams also receives accolades for their continual efforts and helpful attitude. I believe Council is performing well and has solid, sound foundations for a strong future. I very much thank the staff and Council members for their involvement in the several workshops and efficient responses provided by the staff to the numerous inquiry or queries raised by councillors, as we always will. And the development of the annual business plan and updated asset valuations has given us the ability to see the really big picture. Mightn't be as pretty as we like some days, but we can see it. Fully understand the challenges we as a large rural council face and the direction we must take to address that challenge. The proposed annual business plan and budget for 24-25 sets council on a path to surplus budgets and 100% asset renewal in 3 to 4 years. That's if we remain disciplined and stay the course, which I'm confident we can do. But we'll start tonight with the next group of items. Number 1, 10.1. Adoption of the 24-25 annual business plan. I have a recommendation. Someone prepared to move it? You want to start debate?
I'll move it to start the debate.
Councillor Bland is the mover. And is there a seconder? Councillor Rountree. Councillor Bland, that gives you the right to speak.
I think, Mr Mayor, we've actually spent a lot of time on this budget. It'd be fair to say that none of us want to, see our rate increase or, in fact, have to stay the course over a 10-year period and that is going to be the biggest issue, is staying the course, and that is up to councillors now and in the future to do that so that we can keep moving forward and still deliver good services. So it's up to councillors to monitor that and work with staff. So we do need to be very cautious about where we're heading, but I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Councillor Rountree.
I support what Councillor Bland's saying. I think we have gone over this quite a lot. There's never some easy wins. I think having to do only 70% of what we were aiming to do with asset renewal is, a position that's not perfect, but it's a position that means that we don't have to make the rates a lot higher than what they need to be this particular. So yeah, I have some questions, just a couple of small questions, but yeah, it's supportive.
You can ask the questions now.
All right. So just a quick one on page 21 of the plan, or it's page 44 of the electronic version, the blue and yellow table of 2004-2005 external funding. I just wanted to check, are these one-offs or are these where we have to contribute? I know some are. What's our contribution, or how is this money provided to us?
So it's a combination, councillor, through you, Mayor. The LRCIP is the last round of that one that started in COVID. We heard today or yesterday, I can't remember, that the last 150, which we were expecting towards the end of this, before the end of the financial year, which is this week, won't be paid until August now. That is what it is. The rest of them are pretty much one-offs that are lab programs. The BHP Aquatic Weeds one, that I know that's the second year, but it wasn't part of a cyclical thing. And generally those ones are not 50-50. They're a direct, and lab grants are sometimes slightly different to the ones that we're used to from a more regular part of council, in that they sometimes pay us the money and then we will subcontract that work for it to be done. So in a sense, the LAP staff are trusted partners of a couple of the state governments and the landscape boards to deliver these services.
Thank you. And I guess I've still got the floor.
Yeah,
Another
yeah.
question was around the IT expenditure. I went back and had a look at the 23-24 plan where we allocated 100,000 for ICT strategy. And it said, and the highest actions will be funded in 23-24 with the balance in 24-25. Did we act? I want to know what we got for that expenditure, what that 100,000 was spent on in the previous budget, and what another 130 gives us in this budget. Or did we not spend the 100 in the previous budget? And if not, why not?
I will start off by saying that IT will now be an ongoing expenditure. It won't be a one-off in a year. That's probably pretty much part of the course that we will have every year in terms of what's needed to support it. It's almost now like another asset class, like we have buildings, we have roads, we have IT equipment. So that will almost be part of business as usual, but Miles can fill in the extra detail.
Give me a second. Ash, we got the mics back on? Yeah, sorry, I didn't see you come press the button. Miles, please.
Chair, yeah, absolutely agree with Bridget. That is the case. Within our capital budget, we had a server payment. So when we acquired the servers, we acquired them essentially on finance, 3 years worth of $70,000 costs. Now we pay our last one, I believe, in this FY. So moving forward, that's not included. We'll be leasing them and not buying them as we did previously. Leasing is a much better option. But the expenditure that we identified to that strategy, the initial expenditure was all about security. So we had quite dated switches and key infrastructure that created some vulnerabilities. So that had to be addressed, and that's where the bulk of that capital spend went. But then what we've done moving forward is, as Bridget said, we have a rolling replacement program for things like laptops, docking stations, tablets, mobile phones, they're all included, AV equipment. What we're finding as well now is even say the laptop that you've got in front of you, where it might have lasted 5 years ago, with the amount of work it's doing now and the security issues, it's got a 3-year life. So we've worked through systematically all the items that are included in the IT capital budget. We've worked out what is the rate of replacement, i.e. how much life it has, and we've identified then how much per annum we need to invest to keep all of our equipment, in appropriate condition, safe for use. Noting again, at the end of the day, if we introduce these sorts of vulnerabilities, what we're introducing is the potential for people to access public information.
So through you, Mayor, last year's 100,000 plus this year's 130,000, $230,000 in 2 years. That's a lot of money, but you're saying that the bulk of that was for the server, paying the server fee?
The bulk of the expenditure over the last 2 years has been server fee and addressing those items, those critical items like switches and other server types. So we've got a server here as well. It's not, we haven't just got one server external to the site, we've got a server here. That needed work as well. So that was the key one, to get to the point where we were confident that we'd addressed any of those vulnerabilities. But moving forward, the 130 is really business as usual.
We'll expect that every year.
It is. It is business as usual capital. And we'll show you in the workshop that we're going to do in a couple of months, we'll break that down. But quite frankly, it is BAU for replacement of, as I said, things like mobile phones, computers.
So if we look at what through you, Mayor, if we look at the 130 we're spending this year, it's about I think I worked out it's about $1,166,000 per person. If it was, that's if everybody got all new things.
It's not always, through you, Mayor, it's not always about new things, councillor. So when Miles talks about servers, about switches, They are all items that, switches in particular, had no work done. Don't think about a light switch. But it's a terminology where it's almost like an upgrade of a software system, and those switches control those upgrades on a nightly basis to ensure that the system is secure as possible, but also has the latest information. The only thing that might change is that there could be some switching between capital and operational, and that all depends on whether we are releasing the servers, whether we go to the cloud for some things. So some of it will always be renewal, and that's about the hardware of the equipment, but there's also a fair bit of activity in the operational sense in terms of supporting the servers and the IT specialists who are off site who help us with this work, because we only have one person on site.
Okay, so I think the workshop will be very useful when we get to that point. And I just, my last question was page 24 or 47 of the electronic version. 300,000 is allocated to Coorong Thriving Towns. It says in the description that includes improved streetscapes and EV charging stations. And I'm keen to know how much of the 300,000 is being targeted towards the EV charging stations. It was my understanding we weren't doing any of that.
Through you, Mayor, that was a grant that since printing of this, we are not eligible for. We didn't get it, so you can cross that out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It was the growing regions, and our title of the grant process was Coorong Thriving Towns, and we tried to make it almost like a catch-all because they wanted big projects.
Yeah.
Ours still wasn't big enough compared to the ones who actually got the gig. So that's since printing that, it's out. We haven't got it.
All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
Are there other questions or speakers for or against? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Going on from what Councillor Roundtree said, I have concerns too of the IT cost. However, I'm asking the question is probably what contributes to the what I call excessive costs or ongoing every year is our cyber security, I suppose. Is that a big thing? Does that cost us and we're constantly changing to protect the system?
Yep, Miles can fill in the detail, but when Miles talked about the switches, that is a mechanism to make sure that your system is secure as possible, that the latest and patches and all those sorts of things are the latest in terms of security.
Yep.
The longer you leave that maintenance side of the IT world.
And I might just make the point to your worship, when AI is fully on board and doing what it will do at its maximum, there'll be a whole lot more need to make sure IT systems are robust, computers are replaced in a timely fashion. Just the fact, as I said before, even before that happens, we've got a situation now because all of our electronic communications that have a connection into the internet are working harder than ever now. You don't see it because they're being bombarded constantly, and hence, that's why the average laptop had a 5-year lifespan a few years ago. Now it really has a 3-year lifespan. We cannot take risks with because we've got so much public information, and we deal with the public, and also we need to ensure too that we're protected against malicious agents who will try to infiltrate our financial systems as well.
Just saying, Councillor Qualman, you got a second or final question?
Yeah, just a comment on the whole budget, please, or the business plan, please. Just that I'm concerned, like everybody else, that we adhere strictly to the asset renewal, asset management and depreciation, and that we strictly adhere to the path of the long-term financial plan, that we remain on target, taking in that depreciation we've got a handle on, and we can meet a surplus a couple of years, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maidment.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And through you, just another quick question about the IT expense. When Windows 10 stops, I think it's October or August, is this part, will that include that? Because we'll have to renew, won't we, with all the Windows 11,
Thank you for that.
or et cetera?
He will be how many pieces of equipment have we got that can't be readily upgraded to Windows 11? We believe it's not too many. So what we'll do in this replacement program is identify the and that can't be upgraded, and we'll put them as this FY, next FY's replacement priorities. But I don't believe it'll hit the budget.
Anyone else want to speak or questions?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Arthur?
I won't be voting for this budget, mainly because of the fact it is missing the main part of council's work, which is roads. As if anyone's bothered to read the question I asked regarding the management plan and the roads, and as you iterated in your speech before, Mr Mayor, there's been a huge increase in the cost of council maintaining and doing up roads. Yet our budget this year, next year and the year after has actual reductions in the cost associated with roadworks. For example, this year, you know, that 24-25, according to our asset management plan, our transport asset management plan, which we talk about, that is what guides us, the long-term financial plan. Not only mix up with the, you know, the 4.199 million as it's supposed to be in the unsealed roads, and it's 2.48. Unsealed roads are just being built at the present moment. I think one of Josh's men was down our way today or yesterday. I'm seeing a road that's absolute mess. And we just cannot let this go back. And as I said in with my question, the degradation that's taking place now, we will need 3 or 4 times as much money to bring it back to an accepted standard. So I would be quite prepared to come back and revisit this, have a look at this, because when the CEO's statement, then this has been put together by the elected members. It has, but with limited knowledge about what we have. For example, I asked a question about contract materials and contractors, and was told at this meeting that was the cost for the maintenance graders. Well, six employees, 3 tractors, 3 depreciation on 3 graders, the running costs, $600,000 a year wouldn't cover it. And yet that's what was in that budget. So I would like, and there's no reason why we can't go back and with this, to have a look where we can actually try and save some money, because as it is said in the request here, which I was told to put in actually, because it was only a rough estimate before, but if we went for a balanced budget here today, it will be 20% rate increase. So really what we're doing is deferring, and because you're borrowing, it's increasing your liabilities. So that is the reason I won't be voting for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for or against, or we'll get to Councillor Bland eventually? You're the mover, so you'll close if you want to. Close. So, councillors, the recommendation is as it reads in the council adopts the 24-25 annual business plan and budget as presented. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? So that's carried 5-1. Councillor Arthur voting against the motion and the other councillors present voting for. Still carried. Thank you, councillors. I move to number 2, adoption of the 24-25 budget. There's a recommendation there. Councillors in the agenda. Someone want to move that? Councillor Rountree, you moving? There's a seconder. Councillor O'Hara is the seconder. Councillor Rountree, you want to speak to this?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Councillor O'Hara?
I think we've said enough about it, haven't we?
Anyone else want to speak for or against? Questions? Thank you. Well, I'm going to put the motions. Is there, you're close, councillor Roundtree, I think.
Closed.
The motion is as it reads in the agenda, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried by 1 again, with councillor Arthur voting against it and the other councillors voting for it. Number 3, adoption of the 24/5 valuation. Pursuant of the provisions of the Act, the Local Government Act, that council for rating purposes for the year ending 30 June 2025 adopts the most recent capital valuations of the Valuer General totaling, is that billion or squillion or what is it? 4,207 486 400. And that includes rateable and non-rateable properties.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if
Your
we
question
should have
is,
a bit of information on what was last year.
In your budget.
What is the actual increase in the
valuation.
valuations?
Through you, Mayor, can I ask if Leanne's got that in front of her? I don't. In the report.
In the report somewhere, councillor.
90%.
What page?
I understand with rates up
Oh,
there is
overall.
online. Leanne, do you know not roughly, but reasonably accurately what the valuation increase in total is in dollars? In
Yeah,
percent?
so it is in the report. I'm just scrolling down to the bottom page. Because there is a previous year and current year.
Says 19.33.
What
dollar.
page is that, councillor Roundtree?
Oh, I was asking the actual valuation.
26.
20% increase.
Yeah, through you, Mayor.
19% is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Thanks, Leanne.
Sorry.
Okay. Someone wish to move the recommendation in item 3. Councillor Qualman is the mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roundtree. Any further discussion around that increase in our value? You'll close, councillor.
Thank you.
So I will put the recommendation as it reads, the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 4, I think, is the declaration of the 24/5 differential rates and the fixed charge. There's a recommendation there which I won't read because it's very long. It's very long. But councillors, it's been worked out. Councillor Roundtree, you're moving?
Happy to move.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland. Is there any discussion, questions around that recommendation and motion, now motion? There is none.
Closed.
You'll close. That large recommendation, item 4. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously, I think. Number 5, council authorisation of rate rebates. And I did mention myself earlier that I am a member of the Kimberduke Amalgamated Pastime Club, which is a general consideration. Discretionary one. It's in the next one. Might be in this one. Same report, same item.
Together.
Recommendation that council adopts the rate rebates as referred to in the listing attached to the respect of the 24/5 budget. You're moving, councillor Qualman. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara, I think I saw you waving, so I presumed that was what it was. Any questions? Councillor Bland.
Excuse my ignorance, but the Adelaide Benevolent and Strand, I'm not sure what that is or who they are.
Leanne or Miles,
It's a
Yeah,
really
the Adelaide Benevolence Society and Strangers is what it's referred to as.
what is it though?
They provide housing for
Community housing and
community housing. Correct.
community facilities in this good town.
Correct.
Yep, no, thank you, Leanne.
Oh, they don't clean them up.
I haven't got a seconder yet. Yes, I did. No, I did. No, I
You
got it,
did.
councillor Hara. I was looking at the wrong page. Any further questions around that process? There is none. You're closed, councillor.
Close, thank you.
I'll put the motion now as it reads in the agenda. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 6, declaration of the 24/5 Community Wastewater Management Scheme service charges, which are $721 for the occupied units and $690 for the vacant allotments. Someone wish to move that way, please? Councillor Maidment is the mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, wish to speak to that? Questions? There is none?
I ask a question? Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor?
yeah, quick of the dead.
How many community service CWMS charges are the councils now contributing to this scheme?
You don't have that in front of us. Through you, Mayor, I don't have that in front of me. Leanne may know off the top of her head, but we could circulate that out of session.
And,
That is actually as a part of the report there, Bridget, on
have
the
another-
on the rate modelling, just above the valuations, there is a line in there that identifies how many council properties are contributing to the CWMS.
In this report, Leanne,
where's that to?
Yeah, if we go back to the rate model that is there, so there is 16 council-owned connected charges that make up that charge as well.
thank you.
I believe it's page 71.
Letting some people have a look at the document.
It's this one in your,
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah, thank you.
It's in there, councillor.
And where?
Yeah, well,
No,
you and me together,
in your
but
other papers. Sorry, Mayor, through you. It's in the budget paper report.
someone got a figure, just for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, there's
It
16.
appears at
16.
16.
16.
Okay.
There's your answer, councillor. Anyone else wishing to speak or against? There appears to be none. The moment's to close, sir.
Close.
Put the motion as it reads. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Number 7, I think we're getting to, declaration of water supply system service charges. Anyone noticed the news today that the government's going to increase SO water charges to pay for infrastructure?
No,
They look very reasonable in that respect.
They do.
There is a recommendation there, councillors. Someone wish to move? Councillor Coleman. Thank you. There a second to Councillor Roundtree. Any discussion?
Maybe next year's rates will be higher if we're no further ahead. If SA
One
will
thing at
go
a
down
time,
that path.
councillor. Yes. Okay, there seems to be no more discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Declaration of the 24/5 curbside waste management charge. Number 8, which we are service charge of $337. What we will be continuing to keep at the same level within our curbside collection boundary areas.
Mr. Mayor, there's later on in the agenda, there's some reports regarding this. And I'm just wondering, since we put the charge on for extra bins, it's to me have been a ludicrous charge where you get 3 bins and if you want one extra red one, you pay the same as you do for 3.
Councillor, there's been a amount of work
And that-
going on around this when the office wanted, and it will come up fairly soon how this will be, the additional bin charge will be. Josh, do you want to talk to it?
Well, hang on, how can it come up later when we've got fees and charges in here today?
Because it's in transition still. CEO will speak to it.
so we've had For you, Mayor, we've had a couple of people who've asked for an extra bin. It hasn't been a huge, but we noticed that our policy was silent on any resident who wanted a second bin. So we spoke to the waste contractors, and they put in a model and suggested to us, which is the paper that you're referring to,
Yeah, it's
councillor.
in here,
Yeah, that they have provide this type of service to lots of other councils, and so we've basically adopted a similar approach. That if a resident wants another bin, they apply direct to Solo, they pay Solo, and they have this bin. It could be for a set time, but it's a fairly standard process across most councils.
Well, we've had a system which has been ludicrous, to say the least, because no one ever knew how many extra bins people had. And I know I was asked to go down and approach some of the business people down there because they hadn't paid for their extra bins. And the rubbish contractors don't know how many bins they're supposed to pick up because they should have a tag on. Like most councils, you get a tag on your extra bin.
So Josh, pull your mic in.
In the past.
The
Well,
past and the
I don't
present.
know.
Yeah, there's a new,
Yeah.
so I have a way now, and they have a good understanding of how many additional bins are out there, or illegal bins or not authorised bins. So once, if council agrees to the fees are charged in the updated policy, we'll have a mechanism to be able to go and inform those, additional bin holders that there's now a charge for it, which they can choose to partake in, and then Solo, the contractor will know which bins or how many bins they should be collecting from. Yeah,
That's what I'm getting at. What will the charge be? See, at the present moment, it's $337 full amount for an extra rent.
So I don't think that's been determined yet, councillor.
Yeah, that's me.
It's in the policy, right?
It always has been.
Report.
Next report. So that's how it'll be dealt with.
Okay.
So, look, yes, sir, Josh.
Could be answered in the next report, but effectively it's a cost recovery charge. So so we ask Solo how much does it cost to collect that additional bin and dispose of the waste in it, and they make some assumptions about it'll be full and it'll be collected on whatever that schedule is, and that's what we charge. That's what we'll charge.
Any other questions before I take a mover? I need a mover. Councillor Corwin. We're on curbside waste fees. Seconder, please. Councillor Roundtree. Is any further discussion, councillors? Is not. I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 9. The declaration of the regional landscapes levies, and there's, as you know, we're one of only 2 councils in the state that fall into 2 different boards and different methods. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Number 9. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Roundtree. There's a seconder. Councillor Bland. Is there any discussion around them?
Now's the choice.
Here's none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Number 10, payment of rates for the 24 financial year. There is a recommendation which specifies the 4 quarterly last payment days of the 6th of September, the 6th of December, 7th of March and the 6th of June 25. Want to move that way, please? Councillor Maiden, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara, any discussion?
It is probably slightly off field on this, but we would have already had our closing date for this last financial year. This financial year still. Do we have a lot of outstanding rates still? Do we know that figure yet?
We got anything that's unusual amount of outstanding rates on 4th quarter
We
or
gave a
annual?
report, didn't we? So you may, we gave a report to a briefing or part of one of the sessions about a month ago towards the
May have
end of
been
May.
May.
There was nothing extraordinary and we're not expecting that.
Okay, I think I was away then.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Coleman.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, regarding, I'd like to thank the Director of Community and Corporate for providing some valuable information regarding in the background section of regarding the set out of how payment is to occur, because I've had that question asked to me a couple of times and I've got it here in black and white. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Okay. I've got a mover and a seconder, so I'm happy.
Close.
Closed, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Number 11, 24-25 rate capping. The recommendation or their councillors?
Mr Mayor, I'll test the board. I'll recommend that recommendation that the big payable one by more than 10%, and such a cap shall apply where.
Sorry,
I
didn't
don't
hear
think
that.
a 10% increase is sufficient.
I don't understand, sorry.
I've got a mover.
Sorry.
Councillor Arthur, instead of
Well, they said the
15%.
cap is 15%.
Yeah.
Last year you had a 10% rate rise, but if you go up 15%, you go up 14%, you couldn't appeal against it. Why, if it's a 10% rise, why isn't it a 10% rise? So I'm saying this one's an 8.52, so it's a maximum of 10. And if it's more than 10, you can appeal. Because there's going to be, with some of the revaluations, there's going to be some quite substantial amounts, I would think. And I think it's fair.
How did we, Mayor, how did we end up with 15%? Was that, how was that done?
Same as last year.
Same as last year, right?
So I have a motion. I do have, here's the motion, to be quite honest. But with the alteration of the recommendation, instead of 15%, it'd be 10%. So I'll look for a seconder. I'll keep looking for a seconder for a while.
So can I have clarification what we're doing?
So the councillor is moving the recommendation, but with an alteration, which means he's moving the
Amendment.
moving the motion. But instead of 15% rate cap, he is saying that we only have a 10% rate cap, and you can work the arithmetic out. If your average rate increase is 8.5, you can work out how close that is to 10. So I am simply
Sorry,
asking for a seconder to the councillor's motion.
I'll second it, but I have more questions on the matter. Do you need a seconder or can I ask some more questions
I
first?
really think I should have a seconder.
I'll
The councillor,
Oh,
I'm going to take
Coleman.
councillor Coleman, because he's had his hand up a little bit longer than
Sure.
as the seconder. Councillor Arthur, do you want to, no, I think we are in debate, sorry.
Yeah. No,
Do you want to speak? I'll let you speak a bit.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on it first of all. I was against this last year when we had a 10% increase, and but you could you had to have a 15% increase before you could actually not appeal, but I suppose the word is appeal against your rates. So you could have had a 13%, 14% increase, and you still couldn't appeal. This time we've got 8.52%, and at this stage, unless your rates went up 15%, you would not be able to appeal against it. So that's why I'm putting it back to 10%. So the maximum rate rise anybody would be up for nowadays would be 10%, and there'll probably be a few. Like if you look down last year, we were told there probably wouldn't be too many, but there was nearly $22,000 worth. And in the last 2 years in particular, there's been, $24,000 and $21,000.
So I'm looking at councillor Coleman, if he wants to speak as the seconder first, councillor Roundtree.
Yeah, I want to speak. Thanks, Mr Mayor. Going back to 10%, I suppose we've got accurate modelling on how this would be any financial implication. We've got the figures on that, and against 15%. So is it?
The budget's worked out on 15%, and it's
Right.
basically we look historically what that might mean. We look at what the rates are, and we have pretty much a bit of a guess of what we think it should be. But the actual budget's been worked out on a 15%.
Okay.
Councillor Roundtree, you're speaking or you've got a question?
Probably both.
Or one or the other, you need to
I'll
make.
speak and it will turn into a question, I guess.
We'll
'cause-
start with a question, eh?
No, I'll start with my speaking first, if I may.
You're
just-
speaking for or against the motion?
Possibly against it, depending on the answer to my question. If I could just say it, it would
Yeah, go
probably
on.
save some time. So my concern is that by changing this down to 10%, we're going to create a deficit in our budget. If we had done this earlier, we would probably have different rates that we'd have to apply to make up that bucket of money. In one sense, we're saying we want to put more money into road renewal, but at the same time, we're depleting the bucket of money we need to actually do it. So I'm a little bit concerned that if we do go ahead and drop this now at this very late stage without having done the modelling to know what the impact of this will be financially across the rest of the budget, we may be heading into uncharted waters. And I think Councillor Coleman probably asked it as well. Have we done the modelling on 10%? No. And I think that's a bit of worry because we may just shoot ourselves in the foot and now not have the money we need to do the things we've committed to doing in the annual business plan. I think this is something that should have been brought up 3 months ago and worked on at that point when we had the opportunities through the workshops, rather than at this very, very late minute. I'm just worried where this is going to go.
I'm just going to take some information from the
Through your
director.
worship, that's correct. We modelled according to the workshop, budget workshop, especially the last budget workshop, which confirmed, I remember saying, I need confirmation on these key direction, and we drafted the budget. I just remind elected members as well that you get a full rating review that'll be commencing next year. So you have the opportunity to look at everything, including capping and how capping is applied.
Any other? Councillor O'Hara.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we can't have these workshops waste of time if we're going to get here today and change it. So
You're speaking against the
I'll be
motion.
voting against it, yeah.
Any other councillors to say anything? You will close, councillor.
I'll just close by saying we're sitting here giving the ratepayer an 8.5% increase. We're borrowing $800,000 in this year. The cost of applying this last year was $21,000. So I'm sure it's really going to smash our budget in the end. The only one who's going to be paid once again will be the rural ratepayer, because that's where most of those figures come from.
Okay,
I'll
councillor.
close the debate.
Close. So councillors, let's be clear what you're voting for a version of the recommendation, but the change to 10% is the cap. If you're in favour of that, put your hand up, please. If you're against that, put your hand up, please. So the motion is lost. With councillors Arthur voting for it, other councillors voting against it. I can take a second motion, actually, can't I? So if someone wishes to, or we sort of, otherwise we'll have no rate capping, councillors, be quite blunt. I could take a motion that could read what was in the original agenda or whatever. Councillor Roundtree.
I'm happy to move the original motion.
Right, so you're moving the original recommendation, which is at 15% rate cap.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara. Is there any further debate?
Can I?
Yes, you can speak.
I will speak. It's not that I don't support what Councillor Arthur has tried to do. I'm a rural ratepayer myself, and I would much prefer 10%. I just think this needed to have been discussed at the workshops we've had before this last minute, because I'm nervous about where this heads. So it's not that I don't support it. It's just too late at this point, and so that's why I'll have moved this way.
Okay, Councillor O'Hara.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't disagree with it, but it should have been done at the workshop.
Okay. Anyone else? Right, the motion is as
Mr. Mayor, can I just say, when was it ever mentioned at workshops?
Oh, it was.
No, the
No, it
15%
actually
was
was.
never
Should have
mentioned.
been, should have been.
It was.
If you wanted to bring it up, you should have brought it up.
Yeah. Right. I'm not going to get into that debate. I'm going to put the motion, which is now the second one on this subject, as it originally read in the agenda. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. The opposite, five people. I will name them: councillors Roundtree, Coleman, Bland, O'Hara, and Maidment voting for it, and Councillor Arthur has voted against it, so it's carried. Thank you. 12, rating policy review. Council adopt the rating policy as amended. Councillors, someone move that way, please. Councillor Roundtree. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maven, thank you. Is there you want to speak, councillors, any of you? Councillor Maven, yes.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Just one little comment. I'm happy to move this, but it's disappointing it wasn't presented to us before tonight, some of the changes. And I understand the reasoning because it's just coming into line with other legislation, but we've got such a big agenda tonight, it might have been good to just have it separated a bit, that's all. But I'm happy to still move it.
Point taken. Sometimes things happen
They do.
quicker than we like.
Yep.
Sometimes they don't happen quicker than we like. Anyone else? There being no one else, the recommendation is as it reads in the agenda. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 13, curbside waste recycling and green organics collection service policy review.
Mr. Mayor, can we have an officer speak to this one, please?
I think we probably can. I'm looking for a break. Josh, would you like to speak to the review?
Yep, through the chair. The review was undertaken just prior to my starting, but we also, part of that was to include the updated clauses for additional collection services. So as Councillor Arthur raised before, there is a number of additional bins that are being collected that aren't being charged for, and that equals a cost burden across all ratepayers for those additional services. So there was a review of the policy to include additional collection services, and as outlined in the report, Solo will undertake that on behalf of council and provide council with the income from that at those instances.
So I guess trying to work out how green fits, the green waste fits clearly in this.
We need to be a bit better on your question.
All right, I'm talking to
Green
myself
waste
right now.
fits what, where?
Sorry, I'm just talking to myself.
I'll let you go. I'll go to Councillor Roundtree for a minute.
So I just wanted confirmation then, that a resident who wants to have another bin can have one now, but they do it directly with Solo, and is it charged by Solo or through council
By Solo,
directly?
but yeah. Councillor?
Yeah, no, it's, so if they call council, we'll provide them with the necessary forms or put them in touch with Solo, and then Solo handle all the administrative component of it, and then we just receive the income from it at the end of each quarter.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, any other questions around that review? Looking for a mover.
No.
Councillor Roundtree, you want to be the mover? Is there a seconder?
Putting my hand up.
Councillor Maidment, thank you. This is a revised policy review of our waste services. Any further debate? There is none. Close. Taking that as closed.
Closed, yep.
With the motion as the recommendation is, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 14, 2024-5 schedule of fees and charges. The remover, as tabled, the report details all them. Councillor Roundtree, you're moving.
Yep.
Your seconder, Councillor Bland. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, when I find it.
Yeah.
This is in here regarding the extra bins somewhere. When I find it.
So when will the previous number 13 policy take effect? How will the
It's down
overlap
here,
work?
isn't it?
Yeah, somewhere there. Is it
Page 7.
Page 7, councillor?
I'm nearly there.
Council,
I was at
page seven of
6.
the
Number
report.
7.
Yeah, the extra bins. It's always been a bugbear to me, and as for the business people to have to pay a ridiculous amount, and was always worked on. The one charge was for the 3 bins. We got in that businesses didn't need green bins, so they could have a red bin instead of that. And then if they wanted an extra red bin, they paid the same charge as they did for the full amount of bins. Now, I can't find it in here, but what is going to be in relevance to the previous policy that we've just thing with being in touch with
I don't,
Solo about the extras,
I don't know, councillor. So I'm looking at the directors.
what will be the charge? Because it should go in here.
You're talking about for an additional red bin for a.
Yeah.
Well, in the fees and charges, we've got additional domestic waste, so it is itemised. Is that what you?
Yeah, but what is it?
$200,
300.
200.
200 for a domestic.
Yeah, so that's actually a reduction on what there has been before, because they've always been paying the full total for 3 bins.
Yeah, and through the chair. And
Is that extra bin where they've swapped for a green bin?
No.
We'll be swapping anyway.
Because that's one thing we did do businesses. We let them take a green bin back because they never used a green bin, and we replace it with a red bin. So they virtually had 2 red bins.
Yeah, so one of the
Is
issues.
that going to be classified as an
There's
extra?
a bit more work we needed here, councillor. It sounds like there's a reduction this year, and the last thing I'd say is if we're heading towards food and organics trial, perhaps some stage in the next year or 2,
Yeah.
it might be useful for
You're not charged for it anyway.
those businesses which may have a lot of food to consider a recycling process for that waste food.
Through the chair, if we go by what other councils are doing, in particular in metro situations, they wouldn't offer to swap a green bin for.
We're not metro,
No, but.
you know, we're country.
Yeah, but metro councils have a 3 bin system as well, and commercial properties are entitled to that 3 bin system. In a similar circumstance where a business would not require a green bin, that wouldn't entitle them to an additional red bin without a surcharge, and the fees and charges.
We wouldn't give them a recyclable, we have to give them a red. That's been in for, have you used on last time, Mick? We brought that in last time you was on,
Yeah,
that's been in for a fair while.
yeah, it complicates.
So
things.
one thing needs to be.
Yeah, through the chair, what I also say is that the cost to dispose of waste has gone up significantly year on year in terms of the solid waste levy that council pays, that all ratepayers pay. So I think a lot of councils are going to that cost recovery model so that everyone's paying their fair share. So whilst in the past it might have been, the cost burden might not have been so significant, it's quite high now. And that's why a lot of councils are doing that cost recovery model.
Just a question regarding your green organics from the dumps now, what's happening to that?
Through you, Mayor, can
Or
we
your green
take that out
waste
of
from the dumps?
session and we'll answer that out of session,
Need
councillor
to ask that
Rosa?
out of session. Need to ask it out of.
We'll
of
take that
session.
question on notice.
Councillor.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Maben.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you, just a quick comment. I'm glad that the Canalpin Caravan Park stayed at $15 a night. We listened to community feedback on that.
That's
Yes.
the proposal. Okay. Council adopts the 24-25 schedule of fees and charges as tabled. Closed, councillor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 15.
Through you, Mayor.
Murraylands Riverland LGA's annual business plan. Yes, sorry, councillor.
I would be more comfortable. I mean, that was a lot of reading, and I must admit I didn't get through all of it. That we, rather than endorse, can we say receive the Murraylands report? There's a big difference between, and I say this quite often, I'd rather just receive it. Because I also know that the group made a $124,000 loss and how are these losses covered from a cash flow point of view? And so I think it's a lot for us to have to, read our own annual business plan and read their annual business plan. I would rather just receive it, not endorse it.
Not to collect it or to take this report. We're just discussing, councillor, whether
Yep,
we
sure.
can defer this.
Because
Appears
it's got
we-
a fee on.
I'm told we can't.
We have no discretion, Mayor, to not collect this fee.
Oh, I
And
understand that.
we do get paid a little bit. It's not much to do that. And there is that risk that you point to, that if there are defaults on rates and things like that, council generally wears that burden, but that has been pretty much the case over the last few years, if that's what you're
You
asking.
might be on
What do
the
you-
wrong one. I think you're on 15.
We're on the
We're at 15.
So this is about adopting.
Maryland's
Annual business
Riverland
plan,
Local
MRE,
Government
yeah.
Association.
I'm thinking,
budget.
sorry.
I am probably going to have a break in a minute, councillors. I think I've just got the real tip.
I'm sorry, I was thinking we were talking about levies.
Yeah, no.
No.
I take on board your point. If I had my brain in the right place, I can give you a better answer about it.
But when everyone's brain's in the right place, I think just
Sorry.
endorsing it means we give approval.
It's a responsibility.
Implies that-
It may be, but it's
Commitment.
the board's responsibility of this organisation, at the end of the day.
But why can't we just receive their report?
Because there's money.
Because this is a section 43 subsidiary, that's why.
Which we have a financial commitment to.
All member councils are required to endorse.
Endorse it.
Yeah, so all 8 of us in this process.
Then my question around when they do make a loss, how is that loss dealt with?
Without me having enough time to go back into it, the board has some reserves. And that's, I think, has been the position of this board for 2 or 3 years, is to start to use some of them.
Okay.
The board is the 8 mayors of the region. So. You caught me on the hop in my head though. Anyone else feel uncomfortable, or everyone understands it? Councillor Maidment?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Oh, just a question into regard, don't have to do a 10-year plan. Why is that? They've got a 5-year plan. We've had to do one. Is there legislation for that or not?
It's a very good question. We'll take that one on notice too.
Okay.
There'd be no rule.
Not for an association.
Okay. I have,
Different
just
part
one
of the
little
act.
comment, if I may, and then I'm finished. In the actual business plan, I gather the new CEO of the Karuna East Murray's photo will go in there eventually because he's just been appointed.
There is actually a new, yes, there is a new,
Okay, thank you.
but it's the usual changes. Someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Bland is. The seconder. Councillor Maidment. Councillor Bland, you want to speak to it?
No, this association's needed strongly across the Riverland and Murraylands. There is always some cost contributed by councils to it. And we need to be a part of that to stay connected across the regions and to move forward where it needs to be, supporting each other.
No one else wish to speak for or against? Questions? We'll get back to you, councillor, on the deficit, how that, why that is the process. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Deal with this next one, now I'm going to ask for about a 10-minute break. Delegations review various acts, number 16. There is a recommendation. Councillors, I don't know if you want to vary it, but because it's relatively long.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Certainly that.
I had a look at the link to the changes in blue. Instrument of delegation under the Joint Criminal Rules 2022. What does Rule 62.1 file and information? Feels like it needed to say document at the end of it. Does this file and information mean?
Through you, Mayor, unless the,
Probably filing a case, criminal case. Yeah, I would think when they talk about filing, it would be filing a case with the court.
So it just says file and information, what?
You would actually be undertaking a criminal prosecution. the local government can actually, under legislation, trigger a criminal prosecution. It probably would be very, I believe that's what this would relate to, and when you take such action, you file a case with the court.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
my understanding.
To you, Mayor, if that was to come up, it would be so unique. We would be making sure we got legal advice as well as looking at the delegations much more closely.
Okay,
Can I have a mover, please? So councillor Roundtree, you'll move that recommendation as it reads. Is there a seconder? Councillor Qualman, thank you. Is there any more questions? There is none. I'll put the motion, which is the recommendation as it reads. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Councillors, I propose a 10-minute break, please. Done well, but we just need to have a break for a second. Back at 6.
Reverend Murray's is on the market in about 8 people. But that's,
Councillors, we return. Thank you. We move to item 17, which is the third quarter review of the 23-24 annual business plan. Do I start with questions or can someone prepare to move recommendation?
I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
Councillor Roundtree moves. Is there a second up?
Second.
Councillor Maben. Got a tag team tonight, I've noticed.
Oh, yep, a little bit. Seems to be. Wasn't pre-arranged.
Either you wish to speak to the third quarter review? Anyone else?
No, I think it's all very clear where we're at. It's a shame we didn't get some of the grants and things, but yeah.
We're in, perhaps we're not as favoured as we may have been previously. Anyone else got questions around the third quarter review, item 17? Councillor Maven, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. And through you, just a couple of quick questions. On page, I think I've got it all right, just bear with me, page 58. It's talking about the construction of the EV charging stations at Meningie, and then you get to the end column with the commentary. It's a little confusing because Meningie, Canalpin and Tailem Ben are all mentioned, but the actual priority was Meningie. So just for anybody that's maybe listening, just to clarify where we're at on all three, because they're mentioned.
So through you, Mayor, it did start off originally with the request from RIA was just around Meningie, and then it quickly grew to the three. So that's why the commentary is slightly different. It's just to include everything.
Okay.
And my understanding is that, well, I know that Canalpin is definitely working and Meningie is now on, and they still haven't finished construction up here at Tailem Bend.
And can I keep going? It's on the same page, the water and wastewater coordinator. How are we going finding someone with that?
So you may, we've done the interviews, and it's just at the process with the panel is looking at the most suitable applicant.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Oh, another one. You're on a roll.
Most of it's great, and it's just me clarifying
Yeah,
it. So, so page 61, it's mentioned here when I find it. Sorry, bear with me. I'm sorry. Maybe it wasn't 61. Anyway, the question is, who's the special projects officer? It's mentioned.
Within community development, so it's.
Yeah, who is it?
Tammy O'Malley.
It is Tammy, okay. And what does the impact acronym actually mean?
Through you, Mayor, that is the grant that has been given to a group of councils, and it's around sporting, and it replaces the Star Club.
Okay, just
And
not
it's that amount of funding that my understanding is coming to an end either this financial year or next financial year.
okay. So, that I think had a project officer involved with that. So is that still
Through you, Mayor,
there?
that's with another council.
It is?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Hosted by another council.
Right. And my final one, you'll be pleased to know, is on page 64, the disability access upgrade to our civic centre here. I'm hoping the EMs will get the drawings or design plans put before us before anything's done with that. That was mentioned in a workshop.
Director, yep.
Yeah, through the chair, I believe we going to be carried forward, and then we will be coming back to council with some concept plans.
Lovely. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? There being none, there's a motion just we adopt the 23-24 annual business plan third quarter review. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 18, appointment of council members to the Coorong Assessment Panel. There will be a recommendation there, council. Well, there's no, Sorry.
Councillor Qualman and Blaine.
I'd like to move, councillor Coleman and councillor Bland for those two positions, if they're interested.
I'm taking councillor Roundtree because she did have her hand up. So it would be prudent for me to ask both councillor Qualman as our sitting member and councillor Bland as our deputy. Are you both prepared to continue?
I'm prepared to continue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Same.
Same. So they both agree to continue. Is there a seconder for that?
We're lighting up.
Councillor O'Hara is the winner on that one. So, but thank you for your time, particularly councillor Qualman. I know that it's another job you've got to do.
Thank you.
Someone's got to do. And we're aware of, us looking in the future, what we may do there. Okay, councillors, if there's no further questions, the motion is that we appoint councillors Qualman and councillor Bland as a deputy for 2 years, commencing on the 1st of August this year. All those in favour? Councillor Bland, you didn't seem keen in your own appointment.
Oh, sorry. No. Yeah, I'm in favour of me.
Nonetheless, I carry it unanimously. Number 19. Give me a second. Pangarinda Botanic Garden Committee. I just want to note here, councillors, that Julie Barry's been chair of this committee for 9 years. People remember she was also a councillor on this council for 4 years. And she's still continuing as a volunteer. I reckon that's an excellent thing. And I congratulate Julie publicly, privately, on her and the many other volunteers with very long service, and hopefully some new ones coming on their service to that committee. And I think some of them attended. In fact, I'm sure Paul and Kay Bartlett received a recognition award at the Volunteers Day. We received the minutes of the Pangarinda Garden Committee of the 15th of May. Someone move that way, councillor Bland.
With a slight adjustment, Mr. Mayor, is that a letter be written to Julie Barry, thanking her for her long service?
Thank you, letter. Is there a seconder? The Roundtree, I'll give it to. Any further debate? Okay, you
Just add a comment, if I may.
You may make a comment, yes.
Thank you. And just concurring what councillor Bland said, Mr. Mayor, 9 years, the job well done for Julie, and I actually ran into her down the street the other day, and I congratulated her on her services, and I was a bit disappointed to hear that she's finished, but due to health reasons, and and like most people in the committee, we're not young anymore, shall we say, but she's take my hat off to that she's still willing to come back and serve as a volunteer. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. We write a letter of appreciation. Thank you.
Fine, that'd be lovely. Okay, thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Arthur, are you with us?
Through you, Mayor, how many years has Julie Barry been a volunteer? Does anyone know?
It says 9 years as chair in this.
9 years as chair.
Been there a
Been a long time member.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, I'm going to put that down as Ashley.
Through the Mayor, I think the Barrys were part of the initial working group, which is about 30 years ago, I think.
Number 20, Roads and Infrastructure Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 4th of June. Someone move that way, please. Councillor O'Hara and Councillor Maidman. Thank you. Any questions? No, there is no questions. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Information reports. Move to the office. The Chief Executive Officer, the information report. There's a recommendation. We receive and note the report. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Maidman and Qualman. Is there questions, councillors, in the 11.1?
Yes.
Councillor Roundtree.
Thank
On the
you.
voice.
With the financial reporting, looking at that purple graph, it's on page 192 of our electronic agenda. our actual income is not keeping up with what we forecast. We've only got a few weeks left of this financial year. How much income are we expecting to be down? Or do we expect to see that before the end of the financial year?
For you, Mayor. We're expecting it to be on track, but Miles might have it. This is, and this report will be changed for next year into a management report. This is a financial one. So in a sense, it's not terribly meaningful in terms of reading it. But it's, what we will do next year is smooth the income because we know rates come in and lumpy, but we'll smooth it over the year so that we can have a better comparison between expenses and income month by month. But we are expecting the position that we've got now in terms of all the budget papers you've seen to remain true.
So through you, Mayor, I actually don't mind looking at the graph this way. I think it's useful to know when the money does come in. So you're expecting that even though we've budgeted a bit, a certain point in June, we will be at that point in June.
Correct. The two there is the financial assistance grants, which we haven't heard yet, and it's getting very close to the end of the year. And also some money from roads to recovery. Is that right?
Yeah. All right. So there's a couple of big items. Yeah.
We got that.
Oh, and roads to recovery came early this week, but the other one we have not heard, which is, if it doesn't come for us, 550 councils will also be very sad.
The unusual part of local government is we receive our income at the end of the quarters, not the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is,
Okay.
if you compare to other statutory authorities, is quite interesting. Why it is. Anyone else? Okay, councillors. Council receive and note the report. All those in favour?
Can I just, sorry, because before you go on, there's like 8 sections to the information reports. Just the question taken on notice at the 21st of May, and this in relation to Councillor Peach's query around the 50,000 movement under salaries and wages. I felt at the meeting when he didn't want to vote for that, he was quite adamant there was an issue. I know we've had an email around it, but it's interesting now that we do have a formula error, but I think he was right at the time to question it, and I felt he was fobbed off, or he was made to feel like he was being ridiculous, and I think he actually had a valid point. And I'm wondering how
Councillor Peach and I have had a discussion about that.
Oh, okay.
I still haven't taken the motion to the vote yet. I'll have another go. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Arthur.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
You get you back here in a minute. It's carried unanimously, councillors. Number 2, Community and Corporate Information Report. Councillors, there is a recommendation we receive and note the report. Councillors Rountree. Look at Councillor Maven business. Well, it became quite a tag team. Questions, councillors?
I have a question, Matt.
Certainly.
It's just this is under customer service stats, the chart on page 227 of the PDF. Just the way the chart's laid out, it reads that there are 126 matters over 10 days. Is that the correct way to read that chart?
So you, Mayor, is it the table you're looking at?
Yes.
That's correct. So no, it talks about if you read down the column, so say for day 10, we had 5 in progress, 16 outstanding, and we've completed 105. So over 10 days, there was 126 in that column. So there's outstanding 16 basically at this point in time over 10 days.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the hard copy, page 111, planning and building statistics. It's just a comment there regarding council received 10 development applications in May 2024 compared to 16 applications received in May 23. Just wonder if our director's got any comments or what they're feeling about the possible less applications, please.
Through the chair, it is a very good question. I think we're seeing somewhat of a downturn across Australia in terms of development applications. But also note that on any occasion, we might have a lower number of individual development applications, but it's the complexity is the ones that really count. And we are getting some really good quality development applications and queries that are showing us interest in growth, like land divisions. And we've talked about Meningie Motel, those types of queries that haven't quite yet formed a development application or just about to. So I would not be despondent at all. There is definitely the thought that in the near future, that number could increase quite significantly. And again, just remember, it's about the complexity. So I'd be looking at that chart changing and telling me about land divisions this time next year.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Bland is wanting to say something. I think.
No, it's all right, Mr Mayor.
All right.
We'll hold on that.
Anyone else? Questions? Well, I have a mover and seconder. If there's no further questions, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Number 11.3, Dawn is Roads and Infrastructure Information Report. I'll move that way, please, that we receive and note the report. Councillor Bland, Councillor Roundtree. Questions, councillors? Councillor Coleman first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a comment to thank the Infrastructure and Assets Department of Council through conducting the, which I found quite interesting, the traffic counter statistics for intersection of Greenwich Road and Princess Railway Terrace here at Carlin Bend. And that's on page 118 of the hard copy. Daily average of 3,497 vehicles. That's unbelievable. But I know it's a busy intersection, so it does indicate, and these figures are so valuable for, I would hope that we maybe can do them annually, Mr Mayor, to see any growth impact, and that it's a good leverage for further down the track if we've got to do some traffic management or alteration to that intersection to make it more safer.
Perhaps a discussion point, councillor, will be at the next Roads and Infrastructure about how busy that is and whether that would qualify for any safety funding packages around pedestrian movement in particular.
Yes, that's it, my concern.
Given you and me were a bit slow moving across it, and I think that prompted this whole survey. Or at least I was. Councillor Roundtree.
Yes, thank you. So how are we going with getting new grader drivers? How have we progressed?
Through you, Mayor, we have, I think we're almost there, but Josh will give you a bit more granular detail around it.
Chair, we've literally today have appointed one other grader operator. So we now have we'll have 5 operators with one on not on work cover. He's on just extended leave at the moment. So we'll have 5 out of 6 at the moment.
That's great, thank you. And also under waste management, do we know why there was such a large increase in recycling during May? What sprung up? Everyone got all busy.
We just reading about
No, nothing that sticks out.
Nothing particular. We did put in a request to Solo, but we didn't get a response at the time of writing.
That was just quite a big jump. Yeah.
No other questions, councillors?
Yeah, just
Yep.
see, Mr Mayor, to Josh. Monthly fuel usage, 16,000 down to 11,000. It's a bit hard to work. That is for the full month, is it? It's just a graph here, and it just starts from 0 to 18,000 litres. I'm taking it, and then it goes across the place. It starts at 16,347 down to 11. Would that be because we've had to save 5,000 litres because we haven't done any graders operating?
Through the chair, I suspect that does play a part, but I might take the question on notice, and I'll detail
Because
response.
it is a substantial drop, isn't it?
Through the chair, I would also say that we have had we've had a couple of Comfact staff that have been community facility staff that have been off. So I suspect that there's been a reduction just because of some resourcing our resourcing levels, but I'll confirm and let you know.
Anything else, councillors? Councillor Qualman, one more.
Thank you. I was going to ask if I could one more. Thank you. Page 126, capital works, capital projects, unsealed roads program. The second to bottom dot point, some roads have been delivered higher than budget due to the long lead on rubble, which reduces kilometres achievable. Could someone just enlighten me a bit more what's going on with that, please?
Yeah, through the chair. In some instances, rubble pits are a lot further away than would be ideal. And Yamali Road's a good example of that. So it's caused delays in terms of project delays because it's taking longer to get the rubble out to site.
Finding suitable rubble, in other words.
Finding suitable rubble in close proximity to the roads that we're resheeting.
Thank you.
One further question to Josh. We've got in here some samples of quarrying that seems to be this end of town. Have we actually got down to trying to find some rubble in the southeastern area of our council area? There was talk about having a look before, but I haven't heard about anything being done about it because it is an area that
About the coal batch.
costing us a lot of money to get some decent rubble there, and we've been putting some rubbish on there, getting the results. Nothing, no good.
Through the chair, I know that we have had staff out there trying to seek new rubble pits. I don't have an answer, but I can provide that. I'll talk to my staff and provide an answer to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I haven't taken a vote on receiving this report. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Number 12.1, councillors. Councillor Orr, councillors, Councillor Arthur's got 4 questions on notice when I find them. Oh, the questions on notice, I should have to seek a response, councillors. Anyone got anything out of the first one? Okay, I'll go to the second question, councillor. Well, there's a response there.
Can I just have a comment?
Look at the dead now.
I really am struggling to work out how local government does finance.
After all these years, councillor.
Well, it's quite simple. If we sit down, we had $2.5 million in the bank last year. I'm looking at it from a ratepayer's point of view. I see the summary that we present with our annual business plan. It says the revenue is $11 million, the expenditure is $12 million. We're $1 million and we've got to borrow 1.6, but hang on, we had 2.5 in the bank at the end of next year. Now, and then we get the situation in my question further down. On that summary, it says that the wages are 6.2. Further down, it says the 6.9. Now, what is, as a ratepayer, and I am a ratepayer, what is the correct amount that we are paying in wages?
Well, on number 2.
And it says down, it goes down, it says 6.2.
So I'll get the CEO to have it.
So, for you, Mayor, this is, sorry, Councillor Arthur, but the answer hasn't changed. There is 2 parts to wages for staff. One is in the operational.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute? The part that the ratepayer wants to know is what this council pays out in total in wages.
6.9 for last year.
Now, why is in the summary up the top that we sent out with our business plan 6.2?
There are 2 types of accounts. One is it's operational, which is the cash, and I can't change that,
No,
Councillor.
you're not listening though. The ratepayer doesn't care whether it's capital maintenance. He wants to know how much he's paying out.
Ratepayer.
So it must be emphasised. It should be emphasised.
I can't
Fine,
change that.
yeah. But the model financial statements that local government is obliged to follow. So we have to do it this way. Councillor, you and me have been around a while. and you would know there's been several incarnations of how we count money in local government.
Well, yeah,
And sometimes we need to keep moving with the current method. And I share your frustration some days, but probably the most frustrating part of my time in local government is we treat capital as a bit different to operational. And that's where I think most of our challenges around understanding the budget lay. Councillor Roundtree.
I'm going to support Councillor Arthur on this one. I think what he is trying to ascertain and what probably needed to have been spelled out is exactly that whole number. It is of little relevance to ratepayers if it is capital or operational. They want that total number that is paid, and that's where the 6.9 comes into it. And I know that there is a way you have to report it, but there is nothing that stops us in our communications with ratepayers via the annual business plan in declaring that. I mean, you've said it very clearly, 735,000 is a capital cost, so that's extracted from that, and it brings that number down. But I think for the purposes of transparency, it wouldn't hurt to just say it's 6.9 and we allocate to capital 735,000. I get what I see where he's trying to go, and I think it's actually been frustrating to watch the correspondence back and forth on this, because it is like you're not getting what he's asking, and I think it became quite clear what he wants to know, and there's a million different ways to confuse the story when I think it's been quite simple what he wanted to know.
Well, the question's got the answers, what I'd say.
Yeah, he has, but it isn't in the document that's outward facing. And I think that's where the confusion
In
is.
the last 4 or 5 years, we've tried to bring the organisation to some consistency around reporting
well,
in relation to what local government's obliged to do. And
There's no rules about us putting
well,
in
there's
that.
maybe no rules, but then other people will use what we say against us or in a different context. So from
If
a
you're
point of view of
talking about-
comparisons of councils, and that's what people do, I know they do it, is you need to be at least reporting on a consistent basis.
We can do both.
We
I don't
can.
think it's, I don't think it's
but-
one
but,
or the
yeah.
other.
Take your point, but that's, you know, look, a dog chasing its tail eventually.
Well, I think
Anyway,
I think it makes sense to just
All right.
state it.
we'll have a discussion
Um,
about this in a workshop in the future then.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask you the question? 2 years
You can
ago,
ask me a question.
18 months ago, when we had the increase in wages of nearly $1 million, because most of it was capital work transferred. I bet you got asked, how come we'd had an increase in $1 million in wages in 1 year?
No, I didn't.
Because I did,
I did.
many times.
So, no, I didn't even. So,
Yeah.
right. At the end of the day, there's a way we're obliged to account for it now, and that's what we're doing. Now, we can have a discussion at a future finance meeting if you wish about displaying another way, but at this stage, that's the way we're doing it. I'm going to move on to the next question.
Well, I've just one more I'd like to talk about on that question.
Hmm.
So according to page 178, which is of 314, which is a PDF, in the May agenda, we approved the 6.2. Then there was a 50K movement being the contractors, which is written in black. So why did the BR2 number go down by 50 and then go back up again by 50 in BR3? It's a bit confusing.
Because it was movement between salaries and contractors. So salaries went down by 50 because we had put
An acting.
an acting director into salaries, when in fact it should have been in contractors. So it's a nil effect at the end of the day, but it was 50 up from 50 down from salaries,
Yeah.
but 50 into contracts.
Right. Next one.
Well, I think the next one has explained itself, and as I mentioned in the budget, our transport asset management plan, our long-term financial plans, they don't really mean much. Well, I looked at the 21, 23, 33, and there's a lot more expenditure in the long-term financial plan in sealed and unsealed roads then, but they haven't been accounted for. And I cannot believe the present moment. I was told actually yesterday by a fellow that does a fair bit of travelling around Coorong Council, recognised having the best roads at the present moment. They have got the worst. Mallee, everyone's in front of them. And by cutting back on this, we're going to create a rod for our own back.
So this, you're on question 4, I think. I want to make a broad statement, councillor. There are some roads that are pretty ordinary. There's a lot of them that surprised me how well they've stood up. There'll be plenty of challenges around the way we, there's plenty of commentary around how we build roads today versus the old way. I know that. And I'm sure it'll be a subject for perhaps the future Roads and Infrastructure Committee meeting. One thing that this council's always done is we provide a road service that's basically all vehicle sizes on all roads. We actually don't have many narrow roads, to be quite blunt, compared to other councils. Therefore, perhaps speed and size are a bit bigger than other council areas, and it probably needs to be taken into context. I think it'd be useful for us to have a bit of a broad discussion as elected members one day around what's changed in particularly the rural area around travel up and down the road. I would hate to think how many times I drove in and out of my driveway today. Finally, it rained, I hope. And I think we need to have an understanding around the context of what we are asking our roads to do. Because at the moment, they're not what they were asked to do only 20 years ago. Right. Nothing else around your question, though.
When we have that discussion, then we should actually look about what we can do to support our roads in terms of who uses them and how. And for what.
It's almost esoteric, councillor.
Road asset management.
Okay. I'm taking we've answered the 4 questions and I'll move to 2 questions without notice, councillors. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question's about regarding the time that or close of business on Fridays just before our ordinary meeting. We have an agenda for this meeting prepared, right? Some have struggled to read all of it in the set time from 5 p.m. till the meeting time. Got things to do, and this one's a pretty comprehensive one, like some of them are. I suppose it's a ridiculous question, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. Is there any possibility that the agenda in the heavy parts of the year, especially come to budget time, can be prepared, say, one day earlier? I know. Hard one.
I'm well aware that we meet the statutory requirement actually of 3 clear days.
Right.
I think our habit came out of when there was probably more requirement in the Act report. That's why we're on the 3rd Tuesday.
Right.
Have time for financial reports in the old days that were more required. I think it was probably the elected members at the time liked the weekend to read the agenda. I can remember back, you were back in the dark ages. I'm looking at I think that was partially why. If it's a discussion we need to have in council around not only the length of time, but the meeting time drives that. Perhaps we should have it. I know I'm well aware you wouldn't be the first councillor that's put this to me. The amount of work that goes into the agenda, it starts probably 2 weeks prior to when you ever see on the at least.
Yep.
I'm going to get you on the ears in a second here. You watch. So I take your point, and it's probably a point we need to have a bit of a discussion around as a whole group about whether bringing it forward by one day, what the legality versus the reality of that.
Yes, exactly. That involves all of us, Mr. Mayor, for sure.
Okay.
So could we also look at the opportunity then we may have to accept as a council if we do move it back, and I know that puts pressure on staff, but if we do move it back, then that we accept, in fact, we will have to have some late items if they're urgent, but also maybe at the briefing, we may have to have the occasional special meeting to deal with an issue that perhaps couldn't be finalised.
2 parts.
Ways around.
There's 2 parts. There's late items, which you'll find
Late items by staff, not by council.
No, it would need to be very serious before it become a late item. Councillors have to have time to turn their mind.
Yes, I realise that.
Special meetings we have used sparingly, I'd say, but I take your point.
You have briefings.
We do have briefings, and I would be very careful not to have a briefing and then have a special meeting on the same subject. Not only do we have to have time to consider it, the public have to have time to read the agenda and consider it. And therefore, lobby, talk, ask. So there's several governance issues there. We can have a bit of a discussion around a future workshop, perhaps around really spoke to me about struggling over the weekend, come only Monday night, to really read the agenda up thoroughly. And particularly if that becomes a public holiday on the Monday, that does give us a little bit of a trick sometimes in terms of getting answers. Sorry, councillor Qualman, you haven't finished your question.
Just a little bit to add, if I may. And I'm fully aware of the implication and workload it places on our staff. I'm taking that into account, but I just felt I had to ask it. So thank you.
Yeah, I would say that Tuesday has been established as the day from day dot, because I think the other three councils also always met on a Tuesday. Councillor Arthur, it's an old one, really.
Tuesday's work.
We've always been Tuesdays.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, but there's no set thing. And as you know, we can meet in the day or the night time, whereas for a city council, we'd only have the nights. I'm still on questions without notice. Councillor O'Hara.
If I can just get a clarification, please, on the new EV thing at Meningie, is there a charge to use it or isn't there? Because I went and read on the machine the other day and it said you download the RAA app and then you charge your car, then you will be sent an invoice.
So RAA will pay that amount. So I think we actually pay it and they reimburse us. Yeah, but I'll check that, councillor. But it is a paid machine.
Right.
So through you, Mayor,
No, it's not.
council pays it?
Because I think it's our electricity thing, but at the end of the day, RAA is responsible for the payment.
Okay.
So the person that charges his car won't get billed,
I understood it was free.
will get billed.
It's got an electric car. I haven't tested it, but they will get paid.
No,
Sorry, they
The person who's
They won't get paid.
fueling up with electricity will,
pay.
question will pay somewhere. That's just, I think we're going to get
How
there.
did,
Right,
sorry.
well,
how-
That's completely wrong because we were told all along it was going to be a free service.
Well, no.
Free.
No, it was-
no,
You had to be a
discussions.
member of the
It was an
RAA.
early discussion around the council. Free.
Well,
We're going to get another Stobie Pole Taylor Men, I noticed too.
I will send you, through you, Mayor, I will send you the complete details of how that electricity works
When
between
you're
us
buying
and
an electric
RAA.
car, councillor, eh? I'll be buying an electric car.
If it's
sure we were told it was free.
You are correct in that the RAA have created somewhat of a marketing illusion. That'll be a fair comment, I think, around who's paying.
As the MD said, it's a new barrow for their commercial division.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, I also read an article from the RAA that said you will not be charged to charge your car, but if you leave it there more than 15 minutes after finished charging, you'll be charged per minute then for standing time.
I'll have to take it on notice. I
Yeah.
don't remember reading
It-
anything.
it-
to
it
that
is a
effect.
work-
Well, I think the
question
RAA
for us to get it.
have
I think they're-
complicated
Their
everything.
marketing division's got hold of us, to be a polite way of doing it.
Yeah.
Slow and
Yeah.
fast charges and yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely that.
Good question. Anyone else?
What's the action?
Yeah, just one question.
Yep.
I believe the infrastructure and asset manager and the CEO, we're going to go for a
Roads and infrastructure.
Has
now, that's-
anything been done about going on that route? Well, we've done the
Through you,
road.
Mayor. Josh has been twice and I've been once. The last one was on Friday down your way and the one before that was over in the Meningie area. Josh, do you want to add anything?
No, that's, yeah.
Yes,
So you went on with Wendy
I didn't, through
on
you,
the
I didn't
Pasco
do,
Road?
yes, correct. And
Okay.
with,
I went, sorry,
the
through
other
the
man's
chair.
name.
Len, it was
Yep.
Len and Wendy, through
Last
the
week.
Tintinara, the two Tintinara bus routes on Friday last week.
Okay. What's the report on the road?
They
We will
were,
do a report.
yeah. So first route, Wendy's route, roads had been graded a couple of weeks, 3 weeks prior.
Happens to be done. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think that was off the back of your request that came in about 5 or 6 weeks ago, councillor Arthur. So we've done them. Emu Spring Road has got some issues. We acknowledge that and we've put CRs in to have remedial works undertaken. But both Len and Wendy were appreciative that we attended. Wendy acknowledged that roads have been graded and once they're graded, they weren't too bad.
And we fixed the bitumen where the tyre smashing, where the bitumen met the gravel.
Oh, That hasn't been fixed yet. It was raised, and that'll be part of a list of CRs that'll go in off the back of that meeting.
Okay. That's the shades of Canap and Dow's Council. When we were going.
Now you're going back.
Road inspection, everyone was saying it was so good. So the grader hasn't been out here, and we turned the corner and nearly ran over it.
Nearly ran over you. Yep. Okay, any other questions, serious questions without notice? A lot of motor vehicles charging. I move to motions with notice 13.1, which I have none. Motions without notice, councillors. I have none. Minute action list, item 14. Questions, councillors, around the minute action list, please. Councillor Qualman, sorry, I'm looking at my.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 256/23, proposed disposal of surplus assets, Tarna Bend train carriages. I did see our corporate manager did see an email. Have we got any more update on regarding that, please? How are we going with that?
Through the chair, apart from my email that I sent, and the expression of interest is opened. The expression of interest will then be able to determine any parties that then are suitable to tender, and they'll be invited to tender. I will say that the carriage that
Number 7.
has been provided, my understanding is the owner intends to donate it to a railroad association. So it will find a very good home.
Good. Yep. Tidies up that little loose end.
I'm assured by the director that the people who have really inquired, and it includes some other councils, we've been notified, so that we'll give that the due time for people to put their mind across it. We've taken our time so far. It's still on broad gauge, councillor.
Yep. Thank you.
What am I still on? On minute action list, sorry. There's no other minute action list. I move on. Councillors, to item 15, confidential items. For those watching the live stream, please be advised the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. For those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be available on YouTube after tonight's meeting.